In the early twilight of the Cold War, when nations spoke in riddles and listened in silence, the agency searched desperately for tools unlike any seen on the battlefields before. Victory no longer depended on armies moving across borders, but on secrets captured in silence. Every whisper in a foreign capital carried the weight of potential catastrophe for the world. It was in this atmosphere of dread and imagination that a strange idea began to take shape. Could the natural world itself be recruited? Not as symbol or metaphor, but as active participant? Animals moved freely where humans could not, unnoticed, unchallenged, part of daily life. To some strategists, this freedom appeared not as innocence, but as opportunity waiting to be shaped. In quiet rooms lit by dim lamps, analysts debated whether such a concept was brilliance or madness. Documents from those early years reveal a blend of scientific ambition and fearful creativity. The agency wondered if instinct could be guided, if behavior could be shaped into covert potential. Behind locked doors, discussions swirled around dolphins, birds, and creatures few ever imagined. Each species offered a unique ability, keen senses, silent movement, unmatched adaptability. But transforming these natural gifts into intelligence tools required a boldness rarely admitted. Still, the pressure of the era pressed relentlessly, urging innovation at any moral or practical cost. Rivals expanded their influence across continents, urging the agency to consider the unthinkable. Ideas once dismissed as absurd began to feel necessary, even urgent, under the weight of threat. Scientists, engineers, and behavioral experts were summoned into the world of clandestine design. They examined how creatures navigated, how they learned, how they responded to subtle cues. Their research was not gentle curiosity, but a race to harness nature for national survival. The agency viewed the animal kingdom through a new lens, not wild, not tame, but potentially strategic. Early memoranda spoke of biological platforms, a phrase that concealed more than it revealed. For beneath those words lay the question that shaped the beginning of this strange frontier. If animals could move where machines failed, could they also carry the burden of human espionage? The concept stirred fascination among some and deep unease among others trapped in its gravity. Yet the Cold War was not an age that rewarded hesitation, and imagination often outran conscience. As laboratories prepared their first experiments, a sense of entering forbidden territory grew. Officers felt they were stepping into a realm where nature and secrecy merged in unsettling ways. Every breakthrough brought excitement, but also a quiet fear of what such power might unleash. For once, the boundary between human intention and natural instinct blurred. It could never fully return. Still, the project moved forward, driven by the belief that unconventional threats required unconventional tools. Animals, once symbols of innocence, became potential instruments in a war fought in perpetual dusk. And in that dusk, the agency took its first steps toward a chapter of history almost too strange to believe. A chapter that remained sealed for decades, whispered about but never confirmed, until now. This was the moment the natural world was invited, reluctantly, controversially, into the secret war. A moment when fear, imagination, and ambition collided, giving birth to a question that echoes still. Did the agency truly attempt to turn animals into spies? And if so, how far did they dare to go? The answers, hidden in vaults for generations, began here, in a world trembling at the edge of the unknown. Deep inside facilities hidden behind unmarked fences, the agency prepared its earliest trials. Scientists arrived before dawn, moving through corridors that echoed with metallic quietness. Every step carried the weight of projects so classified that even their names were fragments. Here, instinct was no longer a natural force, but a variable to be measured and reshaped carefully. The team studied how creatures reacted to light, vibration, and faint electrical suggestions. Their notes described patterns with clinical detachment, masking the strangeness of the mission. It was believed that understanding these patterns could unlock a subtle form of cooperation. Birds became the first candidates, chosen for their freedom to traverse guarded city skylines. Pigeons, ordinary to the world, possess navigation abilities scientists could barely explain. If trained, they might carry small devices undetected, drifting above suspicion and human gaze. Researchers crafted miniature harnesses, weighing less than a single coin in human hands. Tests measured how long a bird could fly, how sharply it could turn, how much weight it bore. Each trial revealed both promise and limitation, urging the scientists to refine their methods. The agency demanded progress. Repeating that hesitation was a luxury the era could not afford. Yet many within the program felt a quiet tension, sensing they were bending nature too far. Still, the experiments expanded, reaching toward species few believed could be trained at all. Ravens, known for intelligence, were tested for recognition of symbols and distant locations. Their dark wings cut through the dim light of testing chambers like omens cast across stone. Some birds learned quickly, responding to cues with precision that startled even their handlers. Others resisted every attempt, reminding the team that instinct was not easily rewritten. Despite uncertainty, the agency viewed each breakthrough as proof the concept could evolve. Behavioral specialists mapped neural responses, hoping to predict choices before they occurred. They spoke of possibility, guiding movement without forcing it, shaping outcomes invisibly. The moral questions lingered beneath their conversations, unspoken yet impossible to ignore. Was this guidance, manipulation, or something far more unsettling beneath the surface? Yet no one dared to halt the momentum, for fear of appearing uncommitted to national safety. As winter settled over the compound, new technology arrived in sealed crates marked confidential. Inside were prototypes, tiny sensors, microtransmitters, devices smaller than a fingernail edge. Engineers whispered that such tools, if deployed, could transform any creature into a courier. These innovations deepened the secrecy surrounding the program, binding all to silent loyalty. Documents from the time describe a unique mixture of pride, fear, and scientific exhilaration. Some believed they were crafting a shield for their nation. Others felt they were opening a door. A door that once opened would blur the line between human intention and natural evolution. As the experiments grew bolder, the world outside continued its tense and trembling dance. Rival powers pushed forward, rumors swirled, and the shadow war demanded ever stranger tools. Within the hidden labs, the agency pushed deeper into possibilities once considered impossible. And with each new trial, the question grew heavier. How far could they shape nature before it broke? Along remote coastlines, shielded from all maps, the agency expanded its strange ambitions carefully. These shores were chosen for their isolation, where wind and tide masked every unusual sound or movement. Hear ye! The project turned toward creatures shaped by the sea, beings guided by instinct older than empires. Handlers arrived in unmarked boats, their cargo quiet and alive, watched by guards whose names vanished. The first marine candidates were dolphins, creatures celebrated for intelligence across many cultures. But to the agency, they were not symbols of wonder. They were potential instruments of silent approach. Trainers spent endless hours testing whether signals could guide a dolphin toward marked objectives subtly. Hand gestures, tones, and underwater pulses formed a new language understood only within these waters. Some dolphins responded with uncanny precision, as if recognizing patterns faster than the humans beside them. Others resisted entirely, breaking formation and disappearing into the deep without hesitation or fear. Each failure forced the scientists to reconsider whether cooperation could ever overcome wild instinct. Yet pressure from superiors intensified, insisting that rivals researched similar methods in secrecy. The idea of falling behind drove the program deeper into uncharted ethical and scientific territory. Sea lions followed, chosen for strength and their ability to navigate rocky terrain without hesitation. They carried mock devices during drills, climbing onto isolated platforms under moonlit observation. Footage from that era shows handlers keeping distance, as if aware they were reshaping something delicate. Nothing about the work was simple. Each new species required a new philosophy of control and trust. Reports describe the challenge not as training, but as negotiation between human will and animal wisdom. Some agents believed the creatures understood far more than anyone had dared to acknowledge aloud. A few even claimed that certain animals reacted to danger before sensors registered any anomaly. Such stories circulated quietly, dismissed officially, yet remembered by those who witnessed them closely. Despite successes, doubts darkened the program, growing heavier than the salt air surrounding the coast. Could creatures with their own ancient sense of the world truly serve a purpose born of conflict alone? There was fear that the ocean, in its endless memory, would not forgive humanity for trespassing so deeply. Still, deployments were drafted, outlining missions that would never appear in any official record. Plans described reconnaissance routes, underwater surveillance tasks, and retrieval operations unreported. Every detail was crafted under the assumption that no enemy would suspect nature itself of espionage. But the line between partnership and exploitation blurred further with each new strategy proposed. Whispers spread of a final phase, one involving species far larger and more unpredictable than dolphins. Some scientists refused to join, claiming the risks, to nature and to humanity, were beyond calculation. Those who stayed pressed on, driven by loyalty, curiosity, fear, or the belief they were preventing catastrophe. By the end of that period, the coastal bases held experiments so secret that even internal records faded. Only fragments survived, diagrams soaked by seawater, journals missing pages, tapes recorded over hastily. Yet the testimonies that remain pointed toward a truth both awe-inspiring and unsettling to consider. For in those remote waters, the agency had discovered that nature could be shaped, but never possessed fully. Creatures might learn commands, but their instincts belonged to a force older than intelligence itself. And as the program pushed further, many within it sensed that a boundary had been crossed in silence. A boundary that, once crossed, could reshape the future of espionage and perhaps the future of nature itself. There were archives within the agency that few even knew existed, rooms sealed by layers of coded silence. These chambers held documents so fragile in meaning that their existence threatened the balance of history. Among them lay the records of the animal espionage program, though many pages appeared intentionally absent. Agents who entered reported the feeling of stepping into a memory the world was never meant to remember. Dust settled on cabinets marked with symbols instead of names, as if language itself was classified here. Inside the drawers, folders told stories half erased, their edges scorched by methods no one dared question. Some believed the missing files were removed to protect national secrets. Others suspected darker motives. The truth, as always, remained suspended between intention and fear, between control and consequence. One surviving report described an operation proposed but never acknowledged outside these sealed rooms. It spoke of animals trained not only to observe but to return with information no machine could obtain. The mission required navigating territories where human presence would spark immediate retaliation. Only creatures familiar with those landscapes could move unnoticed, blending seamlessly into the wild. Handlers selected species native to remote forests, believing local knowledge offered unmatched advantage. Owls were considered for their silent flight, their ability to cross borders hidden beneath moonlit branches. Their natural precision made them ideal messengers, capable of carrying small devices through vast terrain. Yet the proposal revealed concern. Owls were solitary, unpredictable, bound to instincts older than empire. Could independence be guided without breaking the creature entirely, or was the idea doomed from inception? Another file referenced wolves, though only in coded language, calling them the Watchers of the Frontier. They were never truly part of the program, yet the mere suggestion reflected the ambition of those years. Scientists debated whether influence could replace control, shaping movement without command or coercion. Some argued that such attempts blurred the line between partnership and manipulation beyond recognition. In the margins of one document, someone wrote a single sentence: "Nature remembers what we forget." That anonymous warning haunted the few who discovered it, hinting at consequences not yet understood. Rumors spread quietly that certain operations proceeded without formal approval, hidden even from leadership. Field agents reported sightings of unfamiliar behaviors in wildlife near borders of contested regions. Creatures seemed to follow patterns too precise to be coincidence, as if responding to unseen directives. These observations were dismissed officially, but the unease they sparked never truly faded from memory. A classified audit years later found entire containers of files missing, their absence unexplained. Some suggested internal sabotage. Others believed the documents were removed for protection or silence. Whatever the truth, the disappearance marked a turning point, ending the era of unchecked experiments. Officials ordered the remaining archives sealed indefinitely, buried beneath layers of authorization. Those who had participated were instructed never to discuss their involvement, not even in retirement. It was said that a handful of individuals carried knowledge no paper now contained. Memories unrecorded, memories that could reshape the public understanding of intelligence work, of nature, and of power itself. As the agency shifted focus toward new technologies, the animal program faded into rumor and myth. Yet the surviving fragments continued to whisper a question too dangerous to answer directly. Had the agency learned more than it wished to admit, or had it crossed into territory it could not escape? The sealed archives offered no reply, only the echo of a silence preserved with unwavering precision. Long after the archives were sealed, echoes of the program drifted through halls where new agents trained. Most dismissed the stories as relics of an era driven by fear, ambition, and unrestrained experimentation. Yet some instructors spoke cautiously, as if aware certain truths lingered beneath the surface of denial. They claimed fragments of the project still lived, not in documents, but in memories carried by witnesses. Retired handlers spoke of moments when creatures acted with insight no training manual could explain. One agent recalled a raven returning from a mission with a route impossible for humans to survive quietly. Another described a dolphin that detected hidden equipment before any instrument registered a threat. Such accounts were never verified, but they formed a pattern too deliberate to dismiss entirely as myth. Rumors suggested that a final report existed, a summary written before the files began disappearing. It allegedly concluded that some species were not merely trained, but had become willing participants. This idea unsettled many, for it implied a partnership far deeper than any intelligence service intended. If true, it meant certain creatures understood the stakes of human conflict in ways never anticipated. Years passed, and the world shifted toward technologies promising precision beyond biological limits. Drones replaced birds, submersibles replaced dolphins, algorithms replaced instinctive navigation. But the quietest analysts believed technology lacked something animals offered without calculation. They argued that creatures sensed danger in patterns no machine could decode, guided by ancient memory. Their theories were dismissed, yet now and then a classified briefing referenced organic anomalies. The term, as vague as it was, hinted at observations too significant to erase yet too strange to explain. Field reports noted wolves seen near restricted sites, moving with purpose uncharacteristic of their kind. Migratory birds gathered along borders where no natural food source existed, as if awaiting instruction. None of these incidents proved anything, but together they created a shadow the agency could not ignore. Officials quietly reopened limited inquiries, examining surviving testimonies for overlooked clues. They discovered the anonymous warning again: nature remembers what we forget. And this time, its meaning felt less like poetry and more like a statement of consequence returning to surface. Investigators found that the more the program expanded, the more unpredictable the outcomes became. Creatures began making choices that diverged from planned missions, sometimes avoiding danger entirely. Some believed they were acting in self-preservation. Others thought they were responding to something else. A few theorized that animals, after exposure to training, started recognizing patterns of human intention. If intelligence is the ability to adapt, then perhaps the program had awakened adaptation beyond control. The idea was unsettling. What if the creatures learned not only commands but motives behind them? What if some continued acting on that understanding long after the agency abandoned the program? Officials decided the safest course was silence, sealing the renewed inquiries before they gained momentum. The last internal memo on the subject ended cryptically. We shaped them, but we were not the only ones learning. With that, the topic was buried once more, left to drift between rumor, secrecy, and uneasy possibility. Even today, traces of the old program remain: faint patterns in migration, unexplained sightings, odd behaviors. Scientists attribute them to climate, instinct, or coincidence, yet the timing often aligns too precisely. And somewhere in the distance, beyond borders and technology, nature continues its quiet observation. Final video ending, mysterious closing, so the question lingers, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. Did the agency use animals as spies? Or did the animals learn to watch us on their own? Maybe the truth is not in the archives, not in the testimonies, not in the vanished reports. Maybe the truth is flying above us, swimming beneath us, or watching from the edges of the wild. And if nature truly remembers what humanity forgets, then perhaps the most unsettling secrets are no longer in human hands at all.